Are some people just born to succeed, or is it something that we just tell ourselves? The premise of this video is basically asking the question, do genetics really play a role in success, especially in the corporate world or business world? This topic was requested by someone in my Discord community, so shout out to Monkey Racing for asking this question. If this is the first time you're seeing me or meeting me, I'm 23 years old, a millionaire from YouTube and real estate, still in part-time college because I enjoy learning, and most days I play video games. So let's get right into it. I think that genetics does play a part. I think it would be stupid to say that it plays no part at all, but I don't think it's as big as a part as people think. And I'll get into why. I'll play both sides. In overall life, genetics definitely play a factor. Whether it's health, height, intelligence, or even risk for disease, it's hard to say that this stuff doesn't matter. But I do think some of this stuff matters a lot more than others, such as the health factor and the risk of disease. These are medical traits that actually do go generation to generation, and this is something that I would put at high priority of looking into when genetics do matter. Other things like height is a very big social construct. So the fact that it's a socializable thing, it does play a factor into how the average person thinks, but if you can move past that, I think it's a lot better and healthier. Now, in terms of intelligence, sure, it plays a factor of your base, but I don't think you're stuck there. What I mean by that is if your base level of intelligence is at a certain point, intelligence grows as you grow as a person, so you can kind of grow with it. But while genetics influence some physical and mental baselines, I don't think they determine what our outputs really are. As I mentioned a little earlier, you get to build upon yourself. As you grow as a person, your skills grow. As your skills grow, all of these stats kind of grow. The one thing that I would say doesn't grow would probably be your height, but that's a whole topic that I'll talk about later on in this video. I think nature versus nurture should be clarified. Nature is genetic, often being physical, while nurture is your development. I don't want to get too scientific with it, as that's not really my field, but I can tell you from personal experience, I think the version of me that's built up to $1 million so far has been very much nurtured. I've learned a lot of what I've learned because of my own actions and putting myself in positions and opportunities where I can thrive in these sort of goals for me. So I really do think nurture has led me to where I am now as opposed to nature. I am Asian, so I have my fair share of, I guess, genetics playing a factor into things. But when it comes to business, it doesn't play as big of a factor. I think in places where it might actually affect you is definitely the corporate world, as I've heard tons of stories and seen some examples myself. So corporate success, it depends place to place. I think an over assumption of how it plays a factor should not be done. I don't think that's fair. But I do things with things like communication, leadership, EQ. These are not really inherited traits. These are stuff you have to learn, whether you're Asian, whether you're from Africa, whether you're from any other country in the world. And so this sort of stuff I think is pretty open to everybody else. Same thing with certain levels of education, mentorship, culture, and timing. These are all things you can learn. So these would be nurtured skills. But I can say two people with similar intelligence levels that have different, I guess, like careers based on decisions and environments could go in two different pathways. Because sometimes we just look at someone's abilities, like let's say a leader and their abilities to do leadership things. But honestly, it is often just learnt. It's not DNA based. But where I think people might be thinking when it comes to genetics is, I guess, like the racism. And racism nowadays is like it comes in many forms, I do have to say. So in that sense, I think because of the fact that I live in the US, it's a little bit better here than maybe other countries. So that sort of thing, it probably does play in a factor. But one thing that I have noticed in the US and even in the online space is people that are colored are getting kind of pushed out because of the whole stuff that happened in the past. So this is just something I observed, and you guys can honestly tell me if I'm kind of on point with this. But I've seen it a lot in content creators as well. this huge push for content creators that are ethnic, that are from ethnic backgrounds, have this huge community of ethnic groups pushing them out into the world and pushing their content and making them bigger, as opposed to the other way around. So that's something that I have noticed. But I could see the negatives. For example, if an employer does have racist bias or has bad experiences with a certain race, it might hold you back from landing a job. But I genuinely think you shouldn't hold it against yourself for being that race. I think you just outperform them. And if they can't see the value that you're bringing up to them, there's tons of other companies that'll be willing to work for you. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's horrible to generalize how it operates in the world. I would say a good mindset for the people that might get affected by the race situation is take it in the most optimistic way you possibly can. Because eventually someone will realize your potential, and when they do, they'll make sure that you get treated fairly. So I think you just play the card game of chance at that point. Moving on to a side that I have much more experience with, since I haven't really worked a job since high school, would be the more business and entrepreneurial angle. And I feel like a lot of the people that follow me here are entrepreneurs. So this might affect or relate to you guys a lot more. I love business because business does not discriminate. Genuinely, it does not. If you want to create your own company, there's no discrimination involved with it. Sure, it's higher risk taking. You need resilience, creativity, execution, but it all relies on buildable skills. It all relies on action. Genetics really does not determine business intuition or how successful your business can be in the future, which is, in my opinion, a really good thing. Successful founders who didn't come from privilege may show quote unquote signs of they're a genius or they were ahead of their time. But I really think these are linked to their outcome. They only say this after they achieve a huge goal. They don't say this the other way around. And if they do, it's probably from your mom gassing you up for no reason. So talented people who had very strong natural advantages but never executed are an example of this. Think Nepo babies. Just because they inherited money doesn't mean they have successful businesses. It just means their parents had successful businesses and they don't know how to take advantage of learning their own skills because they think they have everything set in life. There are people of many talents, but some people just never get anywhere either. So it goes kind of both ways. Genetics is often used as an excuse. I know this is a bit of a harsh thing, but if genetics was where you left it at, the person was just born smarter than me, the person has a higher IQ than me, and you leave it at that, then you're kind of bottlenecking yourself and your own potential, right? This whole race thing is a social construct. Humans made it to classify people. And so if society reinforces the myth that gifted people are out there in the world just to justify inequalities or to avoid effort, that is fine. No hate to the people that do it. But I think if you want to be a business owner, you got to realize that giftedness is just someone that's taken so much action that now people think that they're above their own means, above their own capabilities. They put them up to that pedestal. But the person that is on the pedestal struggled and actually put in the reps. So I think this is the difference between these two things that I've read before in a book called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And the way kind of I understood it was that believing in hardwired talent leads to you being still because you think that you can't obtain that talent. While a growth mindset is, I can obtain that talent and more. So in business and corporate life, success is less about genetics. It really is more about your action, your practice, your skills, your network, your mental capabilities. These are all the things that I think got me to where I am today and hopefully gets me to $5 million before the age of 26. Why this matters is basically you shouldn't use it as an excuse of I'm born into this, so this, you should just be optimistic, build your skills, build something that someone could look at and see it as an irresistible, I'm going to hire you. And if you're running your own business, make it so your offer is irresistible, But that's what I think. So just to kind of wrap it up, How big of a part does genetics play in life? I really do think it's up to you. If genetics matter to you, then it matters. But if genetics doesn't play a factor in the stuff that you do, then it has zero value to you. It might have value to society, but are you really relying on what society thinks? You get what I'm saying? And so I know it's kind of dumbing it down, but think even the most simplest of things. Think that whole movement of, let's say, the turtles and the pollution issue we had, right? Nothing against the whole pollution movement and stuff. I think it's great that we're cleaning up the earth. But the point is, if everyone on the earth thinks that pollution is the problem and the way to do this is paper straws, you don't have to believe it. If you believe that paper straws are the way to go, good on you. If you don't believe that paper straws are the way to go, good on you. You kind of get to choose which one you struggle with. You get what I'm saying? And so if you think about it like that, this is kind of no different. You choose how genetic plays a factor in your life, and if it does give you hindrances, just move forward, because eventually you will be given to someone that is worth your time. Because if genetics plays a factor in who you're talking to, maybe that person isn't someone you should be talking to. I hope this helped. This was a bit of a freeball topic since it was mentioned to me. So that's just kind of how I think about genetics. And honestly, even to my own personal day-to-day life, I don't think about it at all. I just think about what's the next thing I could do? What's the next business I can start? And what's the next thing that'll get me to my goals? So genetic really doesn't play a factor into my life at all. And maybe it'll play into relationships or other sides of your life. So that could be a potential thing that might happen. But I'm not sure. You just got to put yourself out there and try. If this was an interesting topic to you guys, let me know in the comments below, or just join the Discord and let me know there. Subscribe if this helped.